This is a video on spiritual communities. Part 1, the government. How to govern a spiritual community. Good morning, this is Wake Up with a video about spiritual communities and how to govern them. This is the first part of this new series. We've been discussing spiritual communities on this channel a little bit in the comment section, but I think this could be interesting for everyone. There are 4 traditional styles of government. The oldest is the Theocracy. It's a government of priests. Examples of that are ancient Egypt, the early Hebrew tribe in the Bible, or the Kogi. Now, in a spiritual community, of course, the question is a priest of what? So I'm not sure if that is even possible, because once you're awake, I've never met anyone who is awake who had a direct God experience. It's only an experience of an impersonal divine that is everywhere, but not a being with whom you can communicate and for whom you can speak. Then the second oldest form of government is the monarchy. There was also a very famous model of a spiritual monarchy, Plato's philosopher king, but he never managed to implement it. One example might have been Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, the Roman emperor, who may have been awakened or enlightened. There definitely have been, in the course of European history, minor nobles who were spiritually advanced, but not so many kings or emperors. But if you start a community and you want to play the guru role, then it's basically a monarchy. A monarchy has the big advantage of that one person says what is being done and everyone has to do it. There's no big discussion. But for the person who plays the monarch, it's very, very big burden, and it's very difficult not to fall out of your awakened, enlightened, or whatever you want to call that experience or state. Adoration is one of the main reasons why people fall out of their enlightenment. You can see that with a lot of gurus. In the beginning they still talk sense, and after a while they talk nonsense, because they become so identified with the guru role and their teaching that they forget the truth. And then it becomes a tyranny. The tyranny is the negative version of the monarchy. Then the next thing is the aristocracy. That's the Aristotelian model. The government of the best, or in this case the government of the most spiritually advanced, if there is such a thing. It's a council of elders, but it's not a council of priests. This is probably the form of government with the most success. All tribes all over the world work that way, and all companies in the modern economic world as well. Although there can be a mixture between a monarchy and aristocracy, where there's a CEO, there's a board of executives, but there's one person who has a little bit more to say. As soon as you have a group who needs to take a decision, you have to decide from the beginning how to take decisions. Are the decisions supposed to be unanimous? 100% have to agree? Or simple majority, 51%? Or a 66% majority, or whatever? Agree on that from the beginning. Otherwise, you will spend the next few years or decades deciding which kind of majority you want to have. And majorities always have the disadvantage that some people will not want to carry the decision. Yeah, if 9 people agree and 1 person disagrees, this person might work against the decision more or less, obviously. Also, if someone cannot join the decision-making process. If someone is not there at the time of the meeting, it's my experience that those people often say, well, I wasn't there, so I do not feel compelled to carry the decision. What we call representative democracies nowadays are actually also aristocracies or oligarchies. Only a direct democracy is a real democracy. But back to the aristocracy. As long as the aristocracy works and the representatives or elders really make decisions that are for the good of the community without they themselves taking advantage of the system for themselves and their families, it's an aristocracy. As soon as corruption creeps in, it becomes an oligarchy. Then decisions are made mainly for your own benefit, not for the benefit of the whole community. And corruption can creep in very quickly, because there's something wrong with the human mind. And most people, they think, because I'm doing so much important work, I can easily make an exception for myself, or for my brother, or whatever. The last form, traditional form of government, is democracy. Everyone is involved in the decision-making process. I know this form from Orwell, although Orwell is quite large, 3,000 people. And there again you have the problem that not everyone is turning up at the decision-making processes. The best form in a small community would probably be a direct democracy with unanimous decisions. But what to do if a unanimous decision is not possible? A representative democracy, to reduce the decision makers, as I said, is more of an aristocracy or oligarchy than a democracy. But it could work if your community consists of many little smaller communities or houses, and then you always send a representative for that house. But that house has to have a unanimous decision and then sends their representative to the big decision-making process. That could work. A democracy that does not work is called a timocracy. That's just the big chaos, basically, like in India. Too many parties, too many large coalitions who cannot agree on anything. As soon as parties come in, the whole process is fucked anyway. Doesn't work. Because parties are a sign that there's no agreement anymore. There's no basic agreement what the community is for. That is one of the most important things, that everyone who joins the community is agreeing on the purpose, on the goal, on the aim of the community. And if he or she does not agree on that goal anymore, it would be good to leave the community. The larger the community, the higher the risk of party formation, which I recommend you to stop immediately, because otherwise you have the same thing that you have in any other democracy. You have the conservatives and the social democrats and the Green Party and the right-wing party and the left-wing party and so on. There has to be a common goal, otherwise it's not a spiritual community. It's just a mini-state. And you also have to consider where people are coming from. People are used to a certain kind of political process, and they will not be able to give it up immediately. So wherever they come from, Russia, India, China, Germany, US, and so on, they will bring their political experience into the community, no matter if it fits or if it doesn't. Their understanding of decision-making, their understanding of authority, and so on. So the country where they come from, the party which they liked before they joined the community, the kind of house, family, parent constellation they grew up in, and so on. All this will be brought into the community. That is why an aristocracy or monarchy is easier, but not necessarily more spiritual. Because in a spiritual community you need people who take responsibility for themselves and not people who like to give their responsibility to others. And I know what your yellow, turquoise and coral minds will say. If there's an enlightened being, it shouldn't be a problem to have a real monarchy that works. Or if there is a bunch of awakened people, there shouldn't be a problem to set up a real aristocracy or democracy. That's a big if. There's no example in human history that this works, not to my knowledge. But people try again and again, and sometimes it sort of works, like Oroville in India. It sort of works in a democratic way. For quite a long time already, 50 years or so. The trouble is to find a lot of awakened people. And what about their families? They're already not awake. What about workers? Do you want to have any employees? But this is a topic for another time. That's enough for today. Tell me what you think in the comments. I will be on holidays for the next 2 weeks, so there will be less videos scheduled, some, but there will be less. And I also don't know if I can answer all the comments, depending how the internet access is there in the wilderness. So, thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, thank you for sharing the videos, and see you soon.